Cindy. I'm studying to become an English teacher, and I love Island TV. Why? Because we are the Caribbean. We are Island TV. We need to reveal our fundamental contributions in America. We need Island TV to reveal our different beautiful Caribbean cultures for the world to respect and understand us better. Grow your business while supporting the only Caribbean television station in Florida. Advertise with Island TV.
Salut téléspectateurs, bienvenue à l'émission Teleskopi nous aujourd'hui. J'ai petit Métellus à service nous. M'a invité nous à rejoindre moi pour m'accueillir un invité très spécial. C'est magistrat Miami-Dade County, honorable Daniela Levine Cava, qui passait, font une visite avec nous, pour juste font parler, pour saluer nous, et puis pour nous parler de deux, trois petits bagages qui permettent nous, téléspectateurs, peut-être connaître plus bien. Donc, on a fait émission en anglais, certainement, et parce que magistrat, pourquoi parler créole, il faut qu'on ait une longueur créole, ça. Donc, Nabdou, bienvenue. Thank you so much for joining us, Mayor Cava.
Merci.
Aha, I was just telling the viewers that although, one of these days soon, we'll be able to run it in Creole.
Yes.
But I did want them to have an opportunity to get to know you. Daniela Levine Cava, the person, the lawyer, the social worker,
yes.
The activist, the person who's always been solidly working on behalf of community.
Yes.
And now you hold this elected office. We'll get to that in a second. But I want the viewers to get to know you as a person. So tell me about you. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Well, thank you. What a pleasure to be with you. And we've been friends for so long and done so much good work in this community. So I am 68 years old. And I was born in New York City. I spent, I moved to the suburbs for preschool, and then we stayed there until we started moving around the
New
world.
York suburb?
Ossining, New York, in Westchester County.
Westchester County, okay.
Yes,
okay.
My dad commuted to work on the train every day. So then he was traveling all around the world. He was doing international business in the pulp and paper industry. He traveled a lot to Africa, Latin America. Those were the primary areas. And then on 2 occasions, his job took him to a country where he would work actually in the operations of the company. So one time was to Rio de Janeiro. Oh, actually 3 times. One time Rio de Janeiro, one time Santiago, Chile, and before that actually was Vancouver, Canada. So we had different moves, and then when we moved back to the United States, we were in New York City for a time, then we moved to the Chicago area, then back to New York, and I graduated from high school in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, where'd you go to school in Brooklyn? I went to school in Brooklyn.
Midwood High School. Interesting.
Okay.
Also, my dad went to Midwood High School. So it was a legacy child.
Good public high school. That's
it was very, very good. Actually, Woody Allen also went there, one of the famous, infamous, I could say, graduates across the street from the main branch of the Brooklyn College. So then I went off to university myself. I went to Yale University in New Haven, and I took a year off after college to work in Atlanta, and I went then to Columbia for law and social work.
What kind of work took you to Atlanta?
Yeah, it's a good story. A friend of mine from Brooklyn, as it turned out, had heard about a program called the Atlanta Urban Corps, and they were placing interns throughout the government and nonprofits. And I applied for one of those jobs, but they hired me to be a coordinator, an internship coordinator. And I was responsible for social work, law, social justice interns throughout the Atlanta area. So I got to know, I didn't know Atlanta before, but I got to know some of the really interesting social change organizations in Atlanta. I had already been dabbling in social work and politics. I actually was student council president at my undergraduate college, and I majored in psychology, and I focused on children's issues, and I had a number of jobs over this different summers that focused on some of those issues. So the Atlanta job was just great, and I took a year off between college and graduate school to stay there, but I had also a different job in the summer. I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia to work on psychiatric issues, and I did two things. I worked in the state psychiatric hospital, providing, I wasn't a lawyer yet, but counseling and advocacy for their issues, and I worked in a program that evaluated people charged with crimes for their mental capacity to stand trial.
Very good. And so already we see the beginnings of your social work career.
Yes.
But then tell us why you chose, why did you opt for social work? Because clearly through the travel that your father or your family allowed you to experience, the world was wide open to you, so many opportunities, so many interests, competing interests, I suppose. So what made you settle on social work?
My mother was involved in social work when she started to go back to work, and she eventually got her master's in social work when I was in high school. So she was on that path. So I was exposed at an early age. When we lived in Brazil, she was creating job training and social networking groups for the girls that lived in the nearby favelas and the slums that she met in the marketplace. And so at age 12, I was taking part in that. And then when we lived in Chicago, I guess I was 13 then, I was tutoring kids who had moved from Poland, and they were part of the YMCA. They didn't speak that much English, so I was going by bus into the inner city to help them prepare for school. And it was always in my nature. And in high school, I volunteered at a Montessori daycare center. Yeah, in the summer, I had one year I had a job in rural Missouri, working in a small town with a church group that we helped organize a program for seniors, shut-in seniors. I went door to door. I found some really very, very sad cases and helped organize the church to go and do visitation. I was 15 at the time.
Yes, of course.
And also in between times we were picking cucumbers because there was a cooperative cucumber farm. That is hard work.
So then what pulled you towards the law? Because now we see your path to social work, but what about law?
I wanted to be able to fight for rights and justice, and I ended up with 2 degrees. I did them together, joint program, because I wanted the ability to use the law to right wrongs and change laws, and I wanted the social work to be able to really understand and be close to the people I was helping.
Very good. And so we know that you are married, you're a mother of 2.
Yes.
And a grandmother of
3.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yes.
Do your children reside here in Miami-Dade?
So my daughter lives in Washington with her wife and their 2 children, who are now age 4 and 6. Of course, the apples of my eye.
Of course.
And then my son, a year ago, moved to Miami with his wife, and they had a baby who's now 6 months old.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we begin to see a picture of you, right? The young person who was inspired by experiences throughout the world, whether in farming and tutoring and counseling and working in some very difficult
I do think living overseas was extremely important.
How so?
Certainly seeing the divides. At that time, we didn't have so many of the visible problems we have in this country with the homeless and so on. But yes, we had that in Brazil. You know, we had slums right there, huge slums, and we had many people who were suffering, and you could see them visibly on the street. And I think it was important for me to really experience also that the United States is not the center of the world, which I think at the time none of my friends had experienced traveling or going overseas. So it was very broadening for me to have those experiences, and it sharpened my sense of justice.
I'm sure. And so fast forward, you moved to Miami in what? 1983. 83. Okay.
Well, wait a second. We say I'm here 43 years, so I guess it was originally 81 because I did my last year of law school at University of Miami.
Okay. So you moved to Miami. This is from New York, right?
Yes.
Okay. Very similar to many of us, right? You moved to Miami, and you immediately go to work for DCF.
No.
Not DCF.
No. My first job, actually, in the summer, interesting, was with Municipal Employees Legal Services, which represented union retirees, and I designed a survey for the seniors on what were their needs. So I was working with the union issue and with seniors. And then I was in school. I finished my last year of school, and I was working with some professors on I worked with Ira Kurzban and got involved in immigration, and that's when I met Marlene Bastien, and I was volunteering with the Haitian Refugee Center.
Right.
And then I started working at Legal Services of Greater Miami. So I worked for several years at Legal Services, and I ran an education advocacy project with children that were not getting what they needed from the school system. And that included, by the way, triplets, 3 Haitian girls who had contracted HIV.
I remember.
And we have 1 surviving. And those were my first class action lawsuit. So we represented children in the school system, and we got them the right to go to public school, to be in classes.
It's important to say that because back then there was such fear.
Very, very big fear about AIDS.
All sorts of prejudices that these children people were trying to keep them out of school.
That's right. So we sued the school system. We got a policy enacted that had the protections for any kind of infectious disease and what protocols would be followed. And these girls were allowed to go to the regular school.
Very good. So when do you create the Human Services Coalition, which is now known as Catalyst Miami?
Yes,
of course.
yes.
So talk about that transition for you.
After the job at Legal Services, I left and I went to Barry University and started Academy for Better Communities, and I taught social policy. And during that time was welfare reform, and I became active in the League of Women Voters. And through that, we created a program about welfare reform, and that led to the founding of the Human Services Coalition. So I left Barry to, I'm completely forgetting my chapter with the Department of Children and Families. So in between that, I did run the foster care system in Miami-Dade County, foster care, adoption, child welfare services, and we also licensed child care. So a lot of different activities that finally led to my founding of Catalyst Miami.
Wow. And so that had to really have prepared you very well for this job that you sought and that you now have and seeking to keep, right? That is the mayorship, right? We're going to get into that in a few minutes, but I want you to tell the audience what compelled you to, of course, create or found HSC, now Catalyst. Human Services Coalition.
Well, we were really experiencing a drastic change in how social services were delivered in this country. We had a welfare system, and we had people, multi-generation, receiving public benefits, but it was a safety net. And then welfare reform really led to a cutoff in benefits. Everybody was thrust into the workplace. Unfortunately, it didn't work as well as it was intended. People who even had training and advanced degrees were going to be working at Burger King, because that's where the jobs were. It was a time when there was a need for workers in the workplace, which I think was part of what animated that. But nonetheless, people wanted to get off welfare. They wanted to go be be productive members of
and be
society. But there wasn't the help that was really needed to help them navigate. So we started the Human Services Coalition to really help people make sense of it. That was also when they started cutting back on people depending on their immigration status. So it was harder to benefit from housing or job training or education if you weren't a citizen. So they were making it harder. And so we were working on all of those issues to make sure people could get the hand up, the helping hand, so that they could really be part of society.
Very good. So before we go to our break, tell us, what's your most memorable experience at HSC? What was your memorable experience at HSC? If you could maybe think of one or two things. I know you had many.
Well, what was unique and is still unique about Catalyst Miami is that it's a service organization, but also very active in advocacy and policy and empowerment, helping the people directly affected to be able to advocate for their issues. So I think some of the best moments for me was when I saw people really have the tools and have the confidence to speak on their own behalf, go to Tallahassee as we did every year, and really bring home their own personal stories in a way that policymakers can't deny that experience. And then they have to listen and they have to pay attention and try to help.
Or maybe soften the more harsh features.
Correct, exactly.
Policies,
not so much punishing people for being poor, but more so recognizing that they are trying also to be active members of society and contribute.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll continue with your career as Madame Mayor.
Yes,
right? Donc, on va retourner tout de suite, téléspectateurs, après première pause ça. Voilà, nous de retour téléspectateurs avec invité spécial nous, Madame Daniela Levine Cava, qui est magistrat Miami-Dade County. N'a fait une conversation avec lui, juste permettre tous les téléspectateurs apprendre connaître mieux personnellement, et parce que nous tous connaissons le travail que l'a fait comme magistrat, et nous pourrons entrer dans le chapitre ça tout de suite là. And so I was just telling the audience that we're going to get right into your role as Miami-Dade County Mayor. First, tell me, what on earth compelled you to run for mayor?
As you know, first I was county commissioner. So for 6 years I served as county commissioner, and truthfully it was a wonderful time. We were able to make a lot of really good changes that really helped people, helping them with housing, getting good jobs, many things of which I'm very proud.
Improving the quality of life.
Quality of life.
In particular, those who really
lacked
the help,
and needed the help. Exactly right. So I felt really good about that. We also did a lot of economic development, things that would help to grow the economy, and we also protected the environment. Many ways that we protected the environment.
And of course, you were county commissioner for District 8.
District 8, which is South Dade. So I reached a kind of a ceiling and a plateau, what I could do as commissioner. And I passed probably more legislation in my time in office than most, if not all. It really was, we were very productive. But I started to meet some more resistance, actually, especially when I was running for mayor. Then people didn't maybe give me as much of a pass to get things done. There was more opposition. So it was an open seat. It doesn't come open that often. And I felt that to have an impact, I needed to really have a position that would allow me to have a bigger impact. So I ran. There were many people running. It was 8 people in the race. So we were one of the top 2 for the runoff. And then, of course, I did win. And it was in the middle of the pandemic.
I recall.
People were suffering a lot. And they really wanted government to help them. So I was a person that comes from that perspective.
You have that track record as an 8-year county commissioner.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I was running at a time when people really needed a social worker as mayor, I would say. And so I was able to prevail, even though I was a long shot considered by some. Of course, I always work as hard as I could possibly work. And then I came into office, and with no preparation, in the sense there was really no transition period, and I had to build up a team, and I also had to deal with a commission that really saw me as different.
Of course.
A woman.
Of course.
A Democrat.
Of course.
Even though it's a nonpartisan seat, it had been held by Republican men for a long time, and also not a typical politician. So it was a challenge, and then.
But you won the first the first female
mayor
of Miami-Dade County.
Correct.
That's important.
Yes,
that's important.
Yes, very.
And you didn't get there just because you were a hard worker or because you were a woman. You had years and years of a solid track record, right? As a nonprofit exec and as a successful commissioner. I think those two in combination.
And let me say too,
assisted.
I won because of broad support. And the broad support comes from the years of service and working across many, many different groups and causes and communities.
That's right.
So it was a coalition, just like when I ran as commissioner. It was really a coalition of people that supported women and immigrants, workers, the environment,
and children,
LGBTQ,
of course,
so
vulnerable
all
people
kinds of things that people who had a criminal record, and I was dedicated to giving them a second chance. So many, many people that saw in me someone that would fight for them and their needs. So that was how I won. We never win on our own, right?
But we work hard, don't we?
We work hard.
So let's talk about your proudest accomplishment. I know that you work so hard. I think I think people would have to be a fly on the wall just to see the degree to which this is an exhausting job. There's so many needs, so many issues. This is a big county with lots of issues and growing, right? So what keeps you going?
Well, first of all, we got through the pandemic, and it was just such a devastating time for everyone, and so many people lost their lives. I lost my father in the pandemic, and at a certain point, we did not have the support that we needed from our state, and I had to fight to get vaccines. I had to fight to create protections for people. And I also had to fight to get funds to help people to get through this difficult time, and businesses that were closed, keeping them going, and the people. Thank goodness for the Biden administration, because it came in with the commitment to help people get through this. We benefited so very, very much from the range of programs that came out of the federal government, and that really kept us afloat. And then, because the temperature is always nice, and you can be outside, and you could take precautions and still be outside enjoying yourself, people discovered us during that pandemic, and our economy rebounded in a way that is beyond belief. We are considered the most recovered economy in the country. So that really, I'm very, very proud of the fact that our economy truly has grown, and that we have the funds, because of that growth, to sustain an active set of government services. But with that came the incredible pressure on our housing. And so the cost of living that has gone so sky high that we've had to really focus on housing affordability. So I'm very proud of the fact that we got through, we recovered. I'm also proud of our incredible dedication and hard work to try to fix this housing gap, which we're not there yet, but we are making progress. And I'm proud that we have a government that is more responsive. Like, I'm a social worker that believes in listening to the community, and so for me, it's all about customer service. So we have worked hard to create a more responsive every department. We have something called No Wrong Door. You'll appreciate that as a social worker. Wherever you go, you're going to get guided to some place that can help you. We track how people's requests for service are handled, and that is hopefully going to be something that will be a lasting legacy, as well as helping our employees feel empowered, valued. Thank you so much. So those are some of the things, along with the ways that we're saving the environment. We just launched Shore Power last week. That is definitely transformational. It helps us to reduce the carbon. How we've dealt with hurricanes and floods. Yes. And yeah, these are challenges that will keep coming, but we communicate effectively, we respond quickly, and we are going to do even more. Floods, heat, which we're focused on, and hurricanes.
I hate to bring this up, although this week is what, the 3rd year anniversary
that's
of
right.
the
Surfside
collapse. I know that you handled that incredibly well. Incredibly well. I mean, it was an impossible situation. That I don't think you can grade someone for their handling of such a complicated, such a devastating event, right? But you did. You did. And from that, there are a number of good things that have happened for the community.
That is correct.
Right?
So it's the 3-year anniversary, the 24th of June. We certainly remember exactly what happened on the early hours of that morning, and then nonstop for the next month.
Indeed.
And we did do a lot of things very well. I'm very proud of our response in the face of just the devastation. And now we have safer buildings, improvements in transparency about condominiums. We have funds to help people with the recertification process for the repairs that they need, that are necessary. And in general, of course, we learn from mistakes. There were horrible problems with that building, and they have been exposed, but the final, exactly all the fault has not been fully established. It's still under investigation, but we know there were shortcuts and there were problems that were ignored.
And certainly that devastating experience is an example of what we or not to be doing.
That's exactly right. We vow never, ever to have that happen again.
And I've got to tell you that you know, we were very impressed, the community, I think, because I heard many comments around that. People were really appreciative and impressed with how you communicated almost on a daily basis.
Yes,
what
it was daily.
Going on.
It was twice daily.
and 3 languages. We appreciated that. It was the very first time that we had a Haitian Creole segment and such public and important announcements. So I thank you for that.
You know, let me say, that's of course very important to me. We know people speak the language they speak, and we have to reach them where they are.
That's right.
So of course we always have those translations. But I think people also have appreciated my efforts to learn some Creole and incorporate it into some of my remarks, and I feel really proud to do that, because everybody needs to feel recognized and heard.
Absolutely. Very good. And so let's move to the challenges awaiting you as you seek the second term as mayor, right? You started talking about housing, transportation. We've made lots of progress. I love the fact that our buses are now carbon free, right? But there's so much more to do. Right?
Indeed, yes, it's
transportation.
Very true.
Well, what are we doing? I know that's a big one, but
yeah, we have a lot of traffic, which is really curious because we really don't have so many more people. So where are they all going? A lot of places to go, things to do. But we have improved transit. We do have dedicated bus lane. For example, you can save 20 minutes in your commute from the west side if you get on one of our express buses at Dolphin Park and Ride or over west of FIU, and you ride in that dedicated lane and you just speed by while those other cars are stuck in traffic. We are almost done with our South Dade bus rapid transit system, which will be the largest in the world electric bus rapid transit system, a 20-mile distance to go to Florida City. and it will be speedy with preference at the traffic signals and so on. So it will save people a lot of time. The Northeast Corridor, which is Brightline, will have local stops. We are in the President's budget for the federal share to build that out and the stations. And of course, we're working hard for the North as well to go to Hard Rock along 27th Avenue. And we're doing the studies and very hopeful. These things take a long time. It's hard for people, but in the meantime, we did revise our bus routes for the first time in 40 years. Now, it is more frequent on the routes that most people use, and it's also weekends that we didn't have much before. Some people feel that they are walking longer distances or taking more buses. We've adjusted the routes. We've already made one major change. Another one is coming next month, and then in the fall there'll be a third lineup. So people are going to really be better off with this bus, even
and we
though
appreciate the fact that you're listening to people. Incorporating their feedback.
Absolutely.
And this redesign, which is great.
Yes.
But talk about your major priorities in this second term. Right?
Well, we have to stay the course. The housing situation is just devastating. No matter where you go, people are really struggling and leaving. They're leaving. People with more money are coming in. People with less are leaving. So that is not good for them. It's not good for any of us.
It's not good for our country.
Of course, our salaries need to be higher, and we've made some progress, but we're not keeping pace with inflation. And the traffic issues we have to pursue, and we are, and improving, as you say. Our environment is really our existential crisis. We have to protect our water. So the bay is fragile, even with all the rains from the flooding. That led to, again, a fish kill. That reflects nutrients in the bay. It comes from fertilizer that washes off people's lawns, from garbage that is washed off the streets, septic systems that overflow. So we're attacking all of those things, and everybody needs to be part of it, because that is our blue heart, we call it. It's a $64 billion part of our economy, the bay. So we cannot ignore at our peril.
And then critical to life, well-being, economic well-being, and everything.
Exactly.
But I don't think that people in our community, that most people truly understand the gravity of this.
That's correct. I agree. So we're on the verge of having more public education in partnership with community groups, because we have to get to people in their own language, in their own communities, through churches, etc. And we just need to do that so people understand the impact on their lives. Also, fresh drinking water. The water comes from the Everglades. And we have to make sure to protect the Everglades, because that is where our fresh water comes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And we are facing extreme weather, and we need to do our part to reduce our carbon through electrification of our bus fleet, solar, and we're helping more households to convert in ways also that will help them bring down their energy costs as well as reduce our carbon.
Very good. So, housing, transit, environment, and everything. And what else is there?
Well, let's talk about safety. Safety is basic. If people do not feel safe, nothing else matters. I have been proud to be responsible for our law enforcement, and now we will have an independently elected sheriff. So come January, I will no longer be the sheriff. It is critically important that whoever is in that role works closely with county government. It's been really wonderful, like at Surfside, the police, the fire, all of us working so cohesively together. So it's important we have a really good sheriff, and that we work together. Safety is not just the responsibility of our police officers. We have major prevention programs to help our kids get jobs, to keep them engaged in productive, safe activities. So we're going to do that. And I will end on this note. Mental health. We are suffering as a community, as a world. This pandemic made people isolated, alone, depressed, anxious. We are seeing a higher suicide rate, and we need to really dig down and see how we can support each other. And I hope to, in my second term, address that head on.
Very good. And so last words before we let you go. last words to the viewers.
I'm very, very proud to be mayor. It has been really the honor of a lifetime to serve in this role. And 4 more years are important for us to really continue to make the difference that we need to make and make sure that our county government is responsive to people's needs and earns their trust.
Thank you so very much. Looking forward to having you join us again.
Thank you so much, Gypsy.
When you win re-election.
I'll be
Thank
here.
you so much, Madam Mayor. We'll see you again soon.
Very good.
All right, on peut tourner tout de suite téléspectateurs après deuxième pause. Nous. Nous de retour téléspectateurs, encore une fois bienvenue à l'édition Teleskopi nous aujourd'hui. Deuxième segment, ma fond conversation avec Maître Cassandra Suprin qui travaille pour Americans for Immigrant Justice, un grand partenaire centre là. Nous avons un pile travail que nous avons fait ensemble depuis surtout non seulement arriver en pile compatriotes haïtiens sous frontières américaines, non, et puis, à partir d'arriver dans pile compatriotes tout, depuis le programme Biden, pas vrai? Programme humanitaire Biden. Donc, Cassandra, je connais que dans le bureau PAO, dans le bureau PANU, dans Catholic Legal Services, dans Office of New Americans, qui sont créations de Madame Magistrat Levine Cava, nous, au four et au moulin. Ça veut dire nous gagnons full monde qui vient prendre service. Je ne suis pas plein pour ça. Même connaît que la situation est de plus en plus compliquée et le monde sous pression, le monde besoin d'informations, le monde surtout besoin de bonnes nouvelles, ou capable de prendre un mauvais coup parce que voilà, on cherche une bonne nouvelle et puis on obtenir n'importe parole que n'importe monde dehors. Okay? Donc, nous avons fait cette conversation ça, dans ce segment ça, pour nous attirer l'attention, téléspectateurs, nous, compatriotes, nous, particulièrement les gens qui sont dans la catégorie ça, pas vrai? Soit le programme Biden, non, ou bien ils ont entré à partir de frontières là, et peut-être même qui fait application sur CBP-1. Non?
Oui.
Alors, qui t'aime remettre tout qui t'aime boire la parole pour dire exactement qui ça, qui point surtout qu'on voulait attirer l'attention des téléspectateurs aujourd'hui.
C'est gentil là, Gypsy. Puis gros problème que moi dans la communauté haïtienne, c'était les jolls.
Ou bien les yodi.
Les yodi, c'est le bagaille, ou bien moun qui ont la caillou, gen résidence depuis 20 ans de cela, yo pense yo compte plus parce que intel te aidé yo et puis yo pas jamais ouais on moun qui dans domaine nan k'ap travail dans domaine nan vraiment pour expliquer yo ba yo changer. C'est pas Jean intel te joine résidence 20 ans de cela qui k'ap marcher pour.
Bien sûr, parce que intel ça te joine résidence, ils sont en base qui peut-être pas sembler situation
différent de exactement. Et puis c'est ça qui fait moi mon paquet moun qui toujours dit moi me connais intel te aidé moi. Mais puis gros problème que moi leur fait un dossier et pas monde qui remplit le que parle de CDR. Et puis il y a des gens qui viennent dans le bureau nous qui là depuis en 2090 yo moun yo te font erreur là dans une erreur grave
et puis qui pas jamais corriger.
Qui pas qu'à corriger.
Et puis moun nan là l'aptan.
Voilà.
OK.
C'est plus gros problème que moi.
Donc ça c'est résultat l'oral un monde qui dit l'a fait service immigration mais qui pas vraiment compte ça l'a fait.
Exactement. Parce que le plus souvent yo ka gen 2-3 approuval, yo pense yo connaît plus mais ça me connait dans bureau ça yo utilise même
histoire là pour tout le monde et c'est là mon yo pral casser dans yo.
Voilà.
Parce que même histoire ça officier immigration leur l'île 2 fois, li songer histoire.
Exactement.
Donc, en 3e ou 4e fois, ça fait que...
Exactement.
On fait n'importe là.
Et puis, des fois, quand il y a des conséquences graves, si par exemple, c'est une histoire pour asile, par exemple, et puis, ouais, que c'est même histoire, et puis, ouais, c'est menti ou bail. Si on fait une détermination de asile frivole, quelque chose ça fait dans le pays, on n'a pas besoin de papier.
Rappelez téléspectateurs, encore une fois, mettre Suprin, sur qui base loi immigration américaine offrir quel que soit mon nom asile politique ou bien asile.
Vous voulez expliquer de critères?
Critères, vous voulez
Ok.
dire, merci.
Critères là, c'est pour montrer que ou t'es persécuté, ou bien poil persécuté, pour une des 5 raisons que je vais nommer,
Ok.
et quel que soit côté ou aller dans le pays ou sous persécution.
Ok.
Donc, on peur crédible parce que t'es persécuté, ou bien poil persécuté,
Ok.
pour raison race,
OK.
religion,
OK.
nationalité,
OK.
membre particulier groupe avec opinion politique.
OK. Donc, sur la politique, il y a bon asile politique parce que vous êtes tellement actif et puis bon, moun a persécuté, moun contre ou, il fait attentat sur vie ou pas en sécurité à cause de activités politiques.
Oui, mais les pires, ça c'est un critère. Opinion politique aussi inclut si on
Ok.
pas dans politique, si on a politique. Par
Ok.
exemple, si on monte dans le quartier, on a un business, mais on a tellement d'influence dans le quartier. Et puis, il fait comme si parti politique A, et pour que l'élection vienne joindre les gens qui ont influence dans la communauté, il dit, je vais mon supporter. Parce que je connais tout supporter, dès que je respecte la communauté, tout le monde a supporté. Quand il y a des gens qui disent non, je ne suis pas dans la politique, je ne vais jamais voter dans la vie, je ne vais pas la donner. Quand il y a politique A dit comme ça, si pas avec moi ou contre moi.
D'accord.
Quand il a commencé à le dire pour ça.
OK.
Ou cas politique, mais
Ok.
son opinion politique parce que
Très
ou pas dans
bien.
la politique.
Très bien. Donc, OK. Donc, pour activité politique ou bien pour croyance ou bien
Voilà.
parole.
Voilà.
Rhétorique politique. Très bien.
Exactement.
OK. Et l'autre chose, c'est religion.
Religion.
OK. En groupe, en catégorie spéciale en particulier, on
Le
dit
plus-
que on dit qu'autant homosexuel.
Ça, c'est membre particulier.
D'accord.
Membre groupe particulier.
D'accord.
Ça, c'est une catégorie que l'immigration pas définie. Il va essayer de critères exacts pour si qu'on tombe dans le critère ça son groupe que l'immigration pas déterminée à l'époque que tu as écrit loi asile là. Mais il a envisagé que moun sa a subi persécution. Par exemple, sous c'est maman famille, c'est la famille Suprin. Si par exemple, il y a un monde qui a besoin de terre côté famille pas m'teye, et on veut éliminer toute famille là. Critère pour mon groupe particulier, c'est pour montrer que identité ou pas qu'à changer.
Bien sûr.
Ou bien critère ou pas qu'à changer. So pas qu'à changer comme sortir dans la famille suprême.
C'est ça.
So si y a une DM,
Ou bien toute famille.
Toute
hein?
famille,
Toute
hein.
famille hein, menacée.
exactement.
En danger.
Ça a son groupe que immigration déterminée. Homosexualité aussi, ils déterminé parce qu'ils ont jugé que ça son identité ou pas qu'à changer la caille.
Très bien.
Ça sont l'autre. Religion, c'est par exemple catholique qui compte vaudouisant,
Ouais,
catholique,
ouais,
baptiste,
ouais,
etc. Race, nous pas vraiment gagné ça dans le pays d'Haïti avec nationalité. Mais loi immigration a dit comme ça, si tu as subi persécution dans le pays, ok, et pour aller vivre dans l'autre pays. Et puis l'autre pays vient bon refuge. Côté au cas même bien privilège dans l'autre pays, il n'y a pas de asile aux États-Unis parce que tu as l'autre pays qui t'offre
Oui,
refuge.
ou tu es très bien à côté déjà, et puis c'est
Exactement.
déplacé, vient aux
Voilà.
États-Unis.
So, nous
Ah,
avons un paquet d'Haïtiens qui étaient venus au Brésil avec Chili, qui étaient venus en résidence. So, techniquement parlant, sous loi américaine, ils dit quoi ça, que Chili avec Brésil
t'es offert au refuge, ça. Ou
Oui,
parce
so,
qu'on passé
voilà.
3 ans, 4 ans, 5 ans,
Exactement.
même 10 ans.
exactement.
Ah,
Kounia, si vous présentez asile ou devant un juge là, vous êtes obligé de montrer que vous avez subi persécution dans le pays. Et puis, quand il y a un juge qui a dit, OK, je crois que vous avez subi persécution pour une des 5 raisons. Même pas agréé au asile, pas parce que je ne pas mériter, parce que Chili ou bien Brésil t'a offert ou refuse ça. Quand il y a même étant qu'Haïtien, parce que je n'ai pas de cas comme ça, que malgré que tu as une résidence dans l'autre pays, nous venons gagner asile parce que nous montrer au juge là, quoi que tu as une résidence permanente dans le pays, je n'ai pas joué même bien privilège avec l'autre monde de nationalité, comme Chilien ou Brésilien. Par exemple, tu as un cas, côté monde, il est enceinte. Et puis, dans la loi brésilienne, il dit 3 mois on va faire petit monde, ou qu'à faire sabbatical. Ou qu'à
sabbatique.
Oui, exactement. So, les mandats, il n'y a pas de balil. Et puis, il travaille dans la factory côté a encaissé poule, la frette. Et puis, il voit que les sont brésiliennes qui sont enceintes, yo retiré dans assembly line là pour faire chita dans bureau côté pas aussi fret côté au cas reposer yo mais lui-même il est obligé continuer à encaisser pour eux. Et puis il était dit son loi moi joindre loi moi traduire en anglais et puis moi faire témoigner li l'obligé travailler jusqu'à ce que il t'a pas le fait Simon. Wow. Son obligé expliquer juge là ça juge là t'est déterminé que le pas de même bien à privilège. Nous gagne en pile monde dans Chili qui était sorti Chili tout côté a maltraité haïtien parce que yo courir derrière parce que yo noir, yo courir derrière parce que nationalité. So race nationalité pas vraiment sorti Haïti, sorti le plus souvent dans l'autre pays côté où t'es planté un statut permanent.
Bien sûr. Bien sûr, d'accord. Quittez-nous aller prendre une petite pause rapidement, puis là nous retournons pour nous rappeler téléspectateurs exactement et à qui ça n'a pas tiré attention, qui ça n'a pas essayé éviter que y a le fait pour ne pas entraver tête un petit peu plus, d'accord? Nous allons retourner un téléspectateur après dernière pause nous et avec Maître Suprin tout à l'heure. Nous de retour téléspectateurs, dernier segment avec Maître Cassandra Suprin, qui sont avocats dans Americans for Immigrant Justice. Et nous avons parlé un petit peu de la situation que nous avons bouillie dans la communauté noire, dans les temps compatriotes qui soient sortis en Haïti sous le programme humanitaire Biden, ou bien qui entrent à partir de frontières. En pile confusion, en pile yo dit, en pile monde soudainement viennent des experts en immigration et puis à conseiller moun sa yo prendre des décisions, faire des choix qui pas nécessairement bons pour eux. Donc nous avons essayé éviter une tragédie si me dit comme ça qui capable de dérouler dans la communauté si ne pas mettre un frein à ça. Maintenant m'a demandé de continuer s'il te plaît.
À propos de asile là ou bien de
alors ça n'a mettre communauté en garde contre
l'autre mettre en garde c'est que j'en t'ai dit avant quoi que moun nan vin surtout moun qui rentre dans le programme Biden yo les bons qui rentre dans le programme Biden mais parler avec un avocat réputable pas chita attendre ça a dit dans la rue parce que ou pas connait ka moun sa yo comment on te fin gen résidence ou pas connait gen un pile moun qui ici pour des années qui pas gen papier mais ou pas jamais dire ça pas jamais dire ça c'est ou connait son bail tabou lié statut immigration moun so ka vous a dit a faire série de bagages puis a dit côté ou pas de bon mais ou pas jamais dire qui j'ai été vinn bon tout ou bien moun n'a pas jamais bon pas dire ça so faut vraiment faire attention côté ou à chercher aide légale parce que il y a des conséquences graves ou ka dit que pas jamais tel les documents mais on te signale
bien sûr et depuis ces documents que lié te mettre fait pour me faire le mal comme c'est pour lier, c'est vous responsable. Voilà. Même pas rien pour moi dans ça.
Exactement.
Voilà. Alors, continue, s'il te plaît.
Et puis, l'autre bagage que je connais dans la communauté, c'est à côté où on a allé faire, ils refusent de faire copie. Ils ne une copie de ça que tu
mais ça, c'est déjà un mauvais signe.
Voilà. Ça, c'est un mauvais bagage. Et puis, des fois, on n'a pas dans le local côté où tu fais application encore. Ou bien, on a chargé frais qui exorbitants pour un bagage qui n'est pas supposé charger. C'est aussi facile.
Donc, encore une fois, c'est le fait que on tellement besoin d'une solution, tellement besoin d'une réponse qui est favorable à eux-mêmes. Donc, ils parlent pour faire n'importe sacrifice, ça veut dire payer n'importe cob, étant donné n'importe monde qui a causé qui tête en bas. Exactement. Et c'est ça qu'on a essayé d'éviter.
Exactement.
Donc, autour de monde qui a cherché asile, autour de monde qui voulait peut-être essayer de changer statut, même leur entrer sous le programme humanitaire Biden. Non? Donc, ça me dit, c'est que c'est préférable que vous parliez avec un avocat. Un avocat qui est spécialiste en immigration.
Voilà.
Parce que loi immigration, pas facile. C'est pas tout le monde qui a une spécialité.
Exactement. Et ça me besoin souligner tout. C'est que grand pile moun qui entre sous programme Biden là qui te grand un processus déjà dans l'ambassade américaine, il y a des gens qui te filent pour eux.
OK.
Ou pas vouloir à l'un côté qui pas qu'on loi immigration pour gérer papier aux États-Unis.
On dit que tu appliqué pour déjà.
Voilà.
Et puis on attend parce que résidence en Haïti prend une éternité.
Oui.
Pas vrai? Mais en attendant, je joigne occasion pour me venir m'entrer sur le programme Biden. Donc m'entrer là, j'ai 2 ans Biden offrir, mais application pour me entrer venir avec résidence là, il là toujours.
Exactement. So ça dépend dans quel stade papier résidence ou est. Il y a une série de monde. Le moment où ils entrent dans le programme Biden, dépend de combien de temps, dans quel statut, dans quel état il est, il a tout appliqué pour résidence pendant le site là. Il y a l'autre monde, vu la situation, il est obligé de retourner. Et si il n'a pas retourné, il y a une conséquence grave dans le papier résidence. C'est comme si on fait un échange entre un bagage temporaire pour 2 ans avec un bagage permanent qu'on souhaite juste retourner pour te arranger. Surtout les gens qui joignent qui ont papier, côté où tu as une résidence en cours, je conseille à joindre un avocat réputable parce que il y a des conséquences graves si que sont mauvais monde qui gère les papiers ça.
Un monde qui vraiment la marine pas métier ou bien il pas gain expérience dans type de cas ça yo, donc il pourra faire des erreurs graves qui pourra avoir des conséquences négatives pour. C'est ça. Très bien. Maintenant qu'il l'autre bagage qu'on voulait attirer l'attention des téléspectateurs.
À part de ça, c'est vraiment 2 bagages ça m'a vraiment souligné et m'a aimé faire le plus tôt que possible parce que pas la pour l'écouler l'année prochaine. Au quand ça qui arrivé un cas, mon nan te vini, Maril te mourir. Et gon loi qui dit si que Maril mourir dans l'espace de 2 ans ou ka fil résidence là. Mais mon nan ni paraît sous moi le fait venir, so nous te getan te gage une façon pour aider. Imagine si mon nan te dans la dernière minute, il pas taper éligible pour ça.
Wow. Donc ça veut dire que faut moun prendre chance yo, mais c'est pas prendre chance ou like this, like that, ou bien n'importe qui, genre, tout ça qui vient bon, il est préférable qu'on parle avec un monde qui connaît le domaine, non?
Voilà.
Préférablement qui gagne toute capacité, qualification comme avocat, qui est capable d'aider, ou avocat immigration, pour me souligner ça, qui peut aider parce que l'a regardé cas complètement, non seulement Biden qui est dans mon counière là et puis versus application second application qui était déjà inscrit et qu'on obtient une réponse dans l'immigration.
Oui, parce que si qu'on mal géré, surtout si que dépendant ou gen mari ou petit tout, il y a des conséquences pour ni ou même ni toute famille ni mari ou petit tout. So c'est vraiment important pour un monde qui est réputable dans ça.
Bon, j'ai l'impression que nous pourrons obliger et font l'autre émission sur question ça encore répéter un petit peu parce que l'expérience montre nous déjà que téléspectateurs qui attendent nous connaissent là, ils entendent, ils comprennent, mais ils pourront parler avec l'autre monde qui garde même émission ça, qui interprète ça dit ils ont l'autre gens et qui pourront offrir en l'autre monde une opinion qui pas refléter ça n'a dit là.
Exactement.
Ouais? Oui. Donc encore une fois nous connaissons que nos situations qui difficile, nous connaissons que tout le monde t'a aimé joindre papier ça pour permettre de réfléchir, enfin respirer quoi et puis déraper, démarrer dans le pays, c'est vrai, mais on pas vouloir faire démarrage ça sur mauvaise base parce qu'on pas aller plus loin.
Exactement.
N'est-ce pas? Donc, fais attention, si je peux répéter ça, fais attention, pas n'importe côté pour le faire type d'application, particulièrement moun qui entre soit à partir de frontières là, ou bien CBP1, ou bien programme Biden. Hein? Deuxièmement, et pas chita sur quelqu'un soit sorgien là dans mais on connaît qui poko en statut final hein, depuis exactement là pourquoi expirer gain temps parler avec un avocat et comme nous dit gagner Americans for Immigrant Justice c'est-à-dire cabinet public côté mettre Suprin travail là gagner Catholic Legal Services et Gagnent de trois autres bureaux avocats qui non seulement capables d'offrir une consultation.
Haitian Lawyers Association.
Haitian Lawyers Association. So,
Yes.
C'est ça que tu veux dans tête, une bar association. Donc, ils sont là pour aider nous, même si c'est des consultations gratis que vous faites, puis le vent, ou mettre d'accord avec mon nom pour service qu'on peut chercher.
Oui.
Mais l'important, c'est que vous joignez conseil, il y a un monde qui compte ça la dire, qui compte ça la faire, qui pas l'induire dans l'erreur, qui va pas le forfait, prendre mauvaise décision, ni gaspiller quoi tout.
Oui.
Hein?
Et de pas me souligner d'autant plus à monde qui gagne TPS pour qu'on ait annonce qui fait.
Oui, pour qu'on gagne annonce, c'est ça que fait nous pas même moyen je dis parce que pas gagner rien, pas dépenser comme dans TPS
Voilà.
du tout qu'on y là parce que pas aucune information qui tombe. Aussitôt qu'une information est tombée, n'a pour retourner pour nous parler de ça.
Même des juste besoin souligner pas tant des monde dehors qui dit a pas appliqué pour déjà.
Oui, il pas qu'à appliquer parce que pas gagne aucune désignation. Ah exactement.
Et dernier point me besoin souligner, c'est monde que l'administration fait annoncer, mon qui marié avec Américain le 18 juin. Il dit pour le moment, si que ou t'es ici en 20 ou bien le 17 juin 2014, ou marié avec un Américain en 20 ou bien le 17 juin 2024, et puis l'autre est entré ici là, ou pas de papier, ou t'es entré illégal, car d'une façon côté, il y a bon parole pour qu'à faire papier.
Pour qu'à ajuster statut ici même.
Exactement.
C'est ça. Très bien.
OK?
Donc,
mais ça seulement besoin de souligner règlement poco sorti.
c'est ça. Donc, attention, pas courir à faire rien. Comme nous dit, une fois que l'information ça est tombée, n'a préparé une émission spéciale pour nous parler de tout ça, n'est-ce pas? Donc, merci, Maître Suprin. Qu'on est pas jamais suffit pour nous parler de tout ça que nous connaissons, nous parler. Même souhaiter que les téléspectateurs au moins standés, petits conseils que nous avons, mise en garde que nous faisons là aujourd'hui, pour parler des pensées comme bio, en ce n'est rien, n'est-ce pas? Donc, on a bon rendez-vous pour l'autre Teleskopi pour nous parler plus de ça une fois que l'information est tombée et que est claire. Pas vrai? Donc, merci encore, merci téléspectateurs et nous avons rendez-vous pour l'autre émission, l'autre édition Teleskopi très prochainement. Merci.
Thank you.